Okay, good day, guys. This is Paul Alfred, your top one motion designer, and today we'll be walking around match cut, how you can easily achieve match cut without a hassle. So, this is basically what match cut means. This transition from one shape, element, or object to another without that's creating an illusion without your viewers actually knowing when this transition happened. So, how match cut works basically is let me open my time graph, my editor time graph. You get to see these peaks. This is where the transition happens. This is the fastest point at which the object is moving, whether it's a opacity, scale, rotation, positioning. Any property you're going to add, you can achieve a match cut with sound. Also, you can achieve a match cut with it. But this happens at the fastest point at which this which this transformation happens, basically. So this is it. This is the fastest point. This is the peak. That's when you adjust your time graph. We'll go over this so that if you're a newbie, you will understand it very, very much as a newbie. So Let's start by creating a new composition. Here it is. Let's create a new composition. And for this tutorial, let's name it new one. Yeah. For this tutorial, I'll be using just um, the position property to get this animation done for us to learn what we are going to learn today. So we'll be transforming from from a square to a cycle. So let's get this centered and this to center your anchor points. I'll be saying some shortcuts in this video. So to center your anchor point, select and hold Shift and Control and double click on your anchor point icon. Your anchor point gets centered. So that's just a quick tip. Now let's create our circle. Duplicate this. I want to create it using the roundness property. Let's get to our roundness property. Here it is. I increase it to the highest point so that I can get every angle, circle that. So if you don't get this roundness, if you're using a lower version of After Effects, you won't get to see this roundness property over here. There's no panel for that. That's After Effects, Adobe had to put it from the feature came in from 2024. So if you can't get it there, you can go down to your shape, drop down shape, contents, and then rectangles. You see rectangle parts, you see roundness. So you can adjust it here also. Basically, that just it. So now we have, let me change the color for easy visibility. Let me change it to this. Now we have our square and we have our rectangle. So the first one we are going to be using, or the first method we are going to use, because in this tutorial we'll be working on two main styles for match cut, two main methods I use for match cut. Then at the end, I will be giving you a bonus tip on morphing, how you can do morphing exactly, like you can use a morphing for it, basically. So but this first method will be making use of the null object to get this match cuts done. Well, let's choose our time frame. I'll be using 2 seconds. N on your keyboard to trim your work area, and put your marker where you want to trim it, and N on your keyboard to trim it. Let's zoom in. Alt and scroll wheel on your mouse to zoom into your timeline. So now I've zoomed into this. I need to parent them to a null object. Right click, new, and then null object. Parent this to your null objects. Here it is. So every other thing will be adjusting everything with this null object. This null object basically controls what you've parented to it. So is this. But now I need to let's adjust this anchor point to where we can easily manipulate and get things done. So select your null objects. I'll be using position as I said earlier to teach this. Put your first position, get to where you want the animation to end. Let's say at 1 second, and on your keyboard to trim it. Let's move it to at 1 second. I want it to move to this point at 1 second. Now You've gotten your animation done. This basically. So the next thing you have to look at is adjusting your time graph, your speed graph. Select F9 on your keyboard to easy ease. Now let's go into our graph editor. Select the two graph, the two anchor point, drag to the ends, drag this to the end. Now we have this point. This is where the transition is going to happen. Like a magician doing a magic trick in British Got Talent and any other Got Talent. So all the animation, all the magic get done at the fastest point in their illusion. So that's basically what we are trying to achieve here. Now we are moving from our square. Let me rename this to square for easy to circle. So we are moving from this to this. Now if we check it out, it's boom. We've done it. Okay, now nobody knows where this transition is happening. Nobody knows where we got this to happen. So you can do this for any other object that you want to do it for. If anything you want to use this method for, if it works for you. You get. So this is the first method using a null object. Now let's go into the second method. I'll be creating a new tool. Let's just name it new to highlight it. Let's copy our shape. Let's copy the square. Copy, Control C to copy, then new Control V to paste. Yeah. Let's trim to where we can. Let's just trim it to 2 seconds. And yeah, so the second method is basically having these two shapes to adding these properties in these two shapes. Basically, there's no object. So you're adding these keyframes in the shapes itself. Do you get? So now this is where your graph editor comes in play. It's still the same thing, but because we are going to do this in the keyframes, in the shape layers itself or the element itself. That's why it's not that it can be tedious, but it's not that something to think about. So let's get our circle to copy and V paste. This is our second. Yeah, no keyframes attached to it. Now I want this at this point. This is the point I want this to happen. All right. This is the point I want the transition to happen. Do you get? So I've put my marker there. Let's either you get to put the shape you want the transition to happen. Let's say this circle. We want the circle to happen here. But the best way to get this done and to be accurate is do the animation together, then you cut out ads when the animation is done. Just follow me, we'll get that together, we'll get that done together. So select the two shapes. I'll be using the same position. P on your keyboard, put your position, drag your keyframe. This is your first keyframe. Drag your marker to where you want the animation to end. Basically, this is where you want your animation. Okay, this is where you want drag it to where you want the transition to happen. Do you get? Then drag the both of them to that point. Now the one that has to continue to the end is the one. Let's drag it to this point, and we want the square to transition to the circle. That means at this point, this is where I want the circle to show. Let's trim it. We have to trim to that point. Delete this first keyframe. It doesn't matter again. Then you cut out this at this point. Now continue animation to where you want this to end. So end on your keyboard. So now this is what we have. Basically, this is what we have. Now, area that you need to do is in your speed graph or your editor graph. You select this. Remember, easy is F9 on your keyboard. So easy is select your keyframes going inside. Drag this to the end because we want this speed to be at this point. We want this speed to be at this point. We want the whole transition to be at this point. So we need the maximum peak or the maximum speed of this particular shape to happen at this point, basically. So let's go back to the time graph. Drag this to the end. This is how it is. Let's drag this to the end, then drag this one to the end. Go to the other shape you need, drag this to the end and drag this to the end. So this is what you have right now. The same thing, looking smooth. This is the second one without using a null object, doing your keyframing inside the object. And this is the one we used a null object to achieve. So it's basically the same thing. I think my PC made them faster, but it's basically the same thing. Now for the bonus, you will be looking at just the same thing, but using it, we'll be doing it in a single layer. We'll be doing the whole transformation thing in a single layer. Let's create a new object, a new composition. Let's just name it morph. Let's just name it morph because that's basically what we'll be doing. Yeah. So copy your square, copy V, paste. Copy and paste. Let's just trim it to 1 second. And on your keyboard, hold Alt and scroll wheel and you're on your mouse to zoom into your timeline. Alt and scroll wheel to zoom into your timeline. So that's it. So we'll be achieving the whole thing using one shape layer. That's where morphing comes in. So remove all the, let's clear our timing graph. Let's clear our timeline. So we need this to move. Be on your keyboard. We need to move from here to this. At this point, let it move to this point. So this is what we need. And on your keyboard. So this is what we have now. Now let's change the shape property. So I want this to turn to a circle at the end, maybe at this peak or at the end. I would need to transform from a square to a circle at this point. So we need to animate the path. You need to animate the path to get to that point. So what I'm using to animate this part is my roundness property. I'm using my roundness property to animate this part. So let's add our using it. Let's add our roundness at this point and add our keyframe. Then at here, I want it to be a circle. So drag this all the way to a circle. So this is what we have. Okay, this is what we have. This is what we have basically. So from square to circle, F9 on your keyboard to get that done. F9 on your keyboard, go to your time graph, drag it to the end, drag it to the end, and this is basically this we are going to get. This we are going to get basically. Okay, that so that's it for that. That is it for that. Where you can get it using just one shape layer, you get the same thing. But here you got to choose what works smoother for you or what works smoother for your animation. So basically, these are first using a null object. This is the second using just the two layers, and this is morphing to get it done. So basically, choose the one that works best for you. So keep creating and keep getting yourself motionalized. I hope this helps you in your motion design journey and you should grasp more on match cuts and how match cuts work. So if you have any question, drop it on the comment section and I'll be attending to them. Thank you very much.